Hi, I'm Tim Armanpour with PagerDuty, and I'm excited to be joined here with Wes Hummel, who heads up site reliability at PayPal. Wes, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to talk a little bit, maybe a lot, about strengthening capabilities across organizations that bring together the wonderful world of DevOps and service ownership. How you doing, Wes?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me, Tim.
Awesome. And one thing to know is Wes has made some material inroads over at PayPal during his tenure. It's only been a short 12 years, right? That's all? Only about
That's right.
12 years?
Yeah. A little over 12 years. Yeah.
A little over 12 years. That's a great journey. And I think to open up, Wes, it'd be really awesome to hear about how you've been able to help parts of organizations you've been involved in. What organizations have those been, and where you're at today, and how you've helped create just positive change through, it seems like, constant pivots.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. I mean, I started my career at PayPal managing a small software development team. Didn't necessarily anticipate myself getting into the world of SRE. There really was no concept of SRE at the time. I mean, at Google there was, but they hadn't written the book yet. So I started what was then called our Global Production Solutions team, which became our SRE team. And when Google wrote the book, we pointed to it and said, that's exactly what we're doing. We're SRE. Um, and to your point, there's been a lot of pivots. Our business has grown massively. Our customer base has grown massively. The needs of our customers have grown significantly. And over the years, I've been in many different organizations. We've been in the payments organization. We've been in our professional services organization, and currently we're in our the CTO organization. And it's really been around the initial years of our journey. We're really around building up the muscle around incident management and change management and problem management, obviously monitoring, triaging of issues. And that was just not a muscle we had at all at PayPal. And over the years, we built that up in a very centralized fashion. And knowing at the time that we were kind of buffering our product development teams from that, but also knowing that we didn't want our customers to suffer any issues that were happening on the live site. We've grown so much now, we've instituted so many kind of processes and tools and platforms that we're now on a journey to kind of federate that out and really lean into our DevOps, into a DevOps model and into our DevOps journey. So it's been a great and exciting journey, and I know our partnership with PagerDuty has been great because you guys are really helping us move along that path to really kind of federate our operations out to our product development teams again.
Well, Wes, first, thank you for the continued trust in Pager to be part of the journey. Um, and I don't know for sure, but when you helped start to really make some organizational shifts inside PayPal, was it branded as site reliability engineering to start with, or is it under some other label that's now evolved into site reliability engineering?
Yeah, I mean, it was called Global Production Solutions. Again, the intent was really, I mean, essentially what site reliability engineers do, and once that term became commonplace, we rebranded ourselves. We have grown since then, so our organization contains more than just what's in a traditional site reliability engineering organization. We have all of our public and private cloud engineering, our global network services, our enterprise-wide observability platform. And we have our data centers, we have corp infrastructure. So there's a significant amount that's under this umbrella, but it's very synergistic parts of the business that really focus on our production site, making sure that it operates at high availability, high reliability, that it's performant, and that our customers have excellent experiences.
I mean, that definitely doesn't keep things boring for sure. One thing we talked about before, you and I, is around how you start to approach almost infusing this notion of like the customers at the center and having that customer first mindset. I've often been very much a believer, if you want DevOps to be a successful cultural transition, you need to create a new norm, which is, customer first is the only mindset to have. How have you been able to start to shift and move teams and large groups of parts of the organization into that mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it best, right? It's not just the technology changes that you have to go through and prepare your platforms and your internal products and services to be able to handle that, but but also just the mindset around the customer and being really customer focused. And that can't just be platitude or words on a wall. It has to be the way the company operates. We're very fortunate now to have leadership that is very focused on customer experiences, and we've made some very tough decisions in the past on our products that we have for our customers. One example is we used to really want people to go down the path of using ACH instead of credit cards, because credit card is a higher cost for us.
Right.
But after getting a significant amount of customer feedback constantly around customers wanting choice, we made the tough decision to say we really need to give our customers the choices that they want and how they want to pay, even though it might not be as attractive for our revenue mix. It certainly is the right decision for our customers. And while a tough business decision to make, it clearly was a winning business decision to make, because our customers really like the fact that they now have better choice, and we weren't trying to take them down a specific path and make it hard to go down another path. And so I think just those constant cultural decisions and the way we focus on our customers gets infused into the culture in the organization. And I've seen dramatic changes over the past decade plus in our company around really having that customer focus and making the best decisions and product choices for our customers that are going to make their lives easier and that are going to enable what they need to get done every day. And once you get that, then the product development teams, the program teams, the operations teams really align behind how do we ensure that our customers are having the best experiences they can have. And then when it comes to DevOps, you know, if you don't have that, then you get a development organization that wants all capped dev, really lowercase ops, right? And what you want is a good mix of dev and ops, where the development teams have that ownership,
Right.
where they have that accountability, but also that they're provided the proper tools and knowledge and understanding about how their applications run on the live side and in production, and how to triage those issues. And I think it's all about making sure that they have those abilities to live into the ops side of it as well.
Yeah, I think that that resonates, I think, really strongly with a lot of the folks listening in right now, and also just I think how I've also started to evolve in my own thinking and orientation on this. One thing I often find is, as technologists, we let's use the SRE movement in the industry as an example, right? So you talk about how, from an intent and purpose, your world was already moving into that direction even before, our friends at Google wrote the proverbial book, right? And inside there's some fantastic first principles that I think many of us have drawn from to help better orient our teams around, well, how do you know if it's going well? And those are things like service level objectives, could be your error budget, help you make certain decisions and prioritizations. How have you, how do you approach looking at data such that the entirety of the customer journey is taken into account? Because the SLOs and even some aspects of SLAs are very inside out facing, right? And so the customer still may not agree with you. And especially your world, you have not only merchants, you also got consumers. And two things I learned in payments is you don't mess with people's kids, and you don't mess with their money. So how have you approached making sure that people are looking at the right kind of metrics and measures to know that they're on their path towards doing what they're supposed to do?
Yeah, it's a great question, Tim. Measures that we've found to be successful are measures that are as objective as they can possibly be. The more subjectivity that exists in the measurement, the harder it is to determine whether, you can get a directional view of how you're trending, but it isn't necessarily a true reflection of the customer experience. Bugs is a good example, right? I could kind of debate on bugs on either side of it all day long. But measuring bugs is directionally a good thing, but it can also drive the wrong behaviors, right? You actually want your developers to write bugs when they see something wrong in the code. And you don't want to create an environment where a significant number of bugs gets flagged, and that
Mhm.
creates an
Right.
emergency. And
Sure.
because otherwise people then won't write bugs, or they'll consolidate issues into one bug. There's all kinds of things that can happen, and not that people have bad intentions. It's just human behavior. One of the things that we did back in 2015 was we looked at our availability measurement, and at the time we were reporting 4 nines because we were measuring clock time, and we were measuring clock time of incidents. So there were all these
Oh,
things that
wow.
were happening between incidents that, well, we didn't really know, right? When there was an incident, then we would retroactively measure, okay, how much of an impact was that to our payments only, right? So what percentage impact was that to our payments, and for how long? So if it was a 10-minute impact, and it was a 50% impact, then we would basically count 5 minutes against our availability
Right.
for the day, for the week, for the month, for the year,
Mhm.
and then we would calculate our availability. Well, we were at 4 nines, but you only had to listen to a handful of customer calls to know that there was a gap between how we measured availability and what our customers were experiencing. So we moved to failed customer interactions, and failed customer interactions are essentially measuring every single call that our customers make to our APIs, or on the web, to see, like, was it a successful transaction for them? Was it a successful interaction for them? Because we were one, inside out, just focusing on
Mhm.
uptime, and two, we were focusing just on the payments aspect of our business. So we literally could have no payments impact and have 100% availability, and checking your history could be down for 2 months.
Right.
Not that that happened, but that's kind of gives you the extreme of what the customers are experiencing versus what we're reporting. When we shifted to failed customer interactions, as you can imagine, the first day we started measuring and reporting on that, our availability was not 4 nines. It was not close to 4 nines. But it gave us that ability to really focus in on all the customer experiences. It was very objective, so it was not a metric that people were arguing about. Is this valid? Is this not valid? It was a very objective KPI. And then we started driving towards addressing what are our
Mhm.
biggest causes of FCIs. What are the things that are impacting our customers the most? And we have since driven to being now 4 nines, legitimately 4 nines, and above. On a normal day, our tier one, or our payment impacting availability, is anywhere from 99.994 to 99.996, somewhere in that range on a daily basis. Of course, we still have incidents that we manage, but our availability is significantly improved over the years where we were measuring just clock time, or where we were measuring bugs, or we were really measuring something that wasn't objective, and it was directional at best when it came to our customer experiences.
Wes, what you're describing, I think, is a really important, I think, often overlooked point of view when it comes to why try and transform how you're working in order to do something more DevOpsy. And and I think what you just illustrated is this notion of, that there is value back to the business if those that are closest to the actual primary contributing factors for whatever is actually driving certain metrics the wrong way or not improving fast enough, to put them literally on the edge of the experience, right? It
Yeah,
sounds like what you've been able to solve for is create not only the awareness of such metrics, right, like the actual customer journey, end to end and across a variety of interactions, right, of all types of customers, but also you're starting to find ways to actually empower and equip engineers to actually be able to do what's needed to go and improve. Like there is nowhere else to run. You can't hide anymore.
yeah.
To your point, it's fully democratized and objective. What have you found to be kind of the way that seems to work well now at PayPal in order to really help those folks in technology to be empowered and almost equipped with what they need to actually really practice what those DevOps principles are meant to influence.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That has been transformational for our company, in that it really did put that information and data in the hands of the folks that could make the biggest improvements and impacts in those areas, to the subject matter experts around the products and services that we're developing for our customers. Um, and it's really about, again, providing that data and the tools and capabilities for the development teams to actually improve their products and services. And we knew that would be a big change, but I don't think we really grasped just how foundational it would be in our DevOps journey, because it was truly the federation, and what had previously been like a centralized team.
Right.
Whenever there was a live issue, kind of we scrambled, made sure we were on it, made sure we engaged the right product development teams. This was really around, hey, let's detect this before our customers do, because now we actually, since then, obviously, we've developed many years ago real-time FCIs, where when we push code, we can actually detect if we're increasing FCIs, stop the rollout, roll it back. Yeah. Putting all these tools in the developer's hands to actually understand the customer experience, how they're being impacted, and how they can actually make them better. Also giving them experimentation tools, which, one of our organizations developed really good experimentation abilities to, push changes out, experiment, throttle them back down if they're not effective, ramp them up if they are. So I think it's really around establishing those SLOs, and you brought up SLOs and SLAs. They should be customer driven. And I think historically people look at KPIs and they internally determine what those SLOs and SLAs should be. Really, those should be driven on what the customer needs and what the customer wants, and those should be driven by the product teams to determine what should our SLOs be for this particular experience, and whether it's availability or whether it's performance. That should really be driven on what do our customers need, and how do their experiences get lifted in a significant way. And so as we went down the FCI journey, we found more and more, initially it was kind of working with, we actually set up a tactical team to work with the product development teams to kind of get them familiar with, like, hey, here's what your numbers mean. Here's how you can use the dashboard to drill in to figure out, like, let's go look at the logs for this. Let's go figure out what's wrong. Let's figure out how, because what we had was, we had the incidents, but then we had the daily death by 1,000 cuts. And so even in days where we didn't have incidents, our availability was low because we just had the significant number of failures that were happening on a daily basis that nobody had visibility into. And so as we transitioned the teams into this new model of working, the product development teams were great. They started picking up many of them wrote Slack bots that would actually inform them every day of how many FCIs they had the day before and what components they were in. There was really a true federation. And we've just kind of taken that model and kind of built onto it as we go, whether it be our problem management practices around RCAs and creating corrective actions and making that part of what product development drives versus the SRE team. We're working on the concept of DCIs, or degraded customer interactions, so we can look at the performance of our products and services and set SLOs around those, and again, put that data in the developer's hands so that they understand. And then I think it also comes down to correlating that data with business outcomes that you're expecting. How does our performance impact conversion of our checkout? How do our errors impact customer signups and net new actives and things like that? So once you start to align those KPIs with your business outcomes that you're expecting, and once you get the data federated in a way that the developers can use it, there's a lot more willingness. I think the last thing you want to do is just be like, hey, DevOps, go, here you go. Like, you guys own your own stuff now, right?
Good luck.
There's got to be a way that they can, the product developers can take that information, and you want that ownership. And to your point earlier, that culture has to be there.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about that. And I think having the strong advocacy from folks like yourself and all the way up and left and right really helps institutionalize it. And, I think as you talk about like the transformation that's happened around literally PayPal over the last 7 to 10 years of shifting out of different operating. Now you have multiple operating models because you've got more distributed teams, all kinds of environments, business that's still growing at a great clip. I'm curious. I'd love to get your take on, as you've been going through this journey. How's PagerDuty helped in this regard on that front?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first, as you know, we've been pushing hard to get to a declarative approach to managing notification configuration at scale with Terraform. And our company, so both PagerDuty and PayPal, have partnered on this and have even submitted PRs to the Terraform provider in order to make this work, right? Your team has been very responsive also to our request for product changes that we needed for this. Second, we want to be using paging analytics to determine trending and team health. The PagerDuty team guided us to consolidate into a single instance, which has been very important to our journey there. And the PagerDuty analytics platform has unlocked a new data source that we're tapping into to get operational performance measurements. And getting again to that single instance was coordinated with your team and executed without any kind of impact to us whatsoever, which has been fantastic. And finally, I think the most important part is that we really view PagerDuty as a strategic partner. We have many vendors that we work with, many companies that we work with. But to me, a strategic partner is someone who actually understands what our pain points are, understands what we're trying to accomplish as a company, partners with us to make that successful. And since we've engaged PagerDuty, you've been with us every step of the way in understanding what those needs are, engaging with our teams on a weekly basis, making sure that we have what we need, and truly creating a partnership that benefits both of us. So it's been a great engagement, and it's really helped us in our DevOps journey, because all the things that we're trying to accomplish when it comes to this kind of federation of operations to our product development teams, it's, in my mind, it's the only way, actually, not just in my mind, probably in our organization's mind, it's really the only way that we can scale. The scale we're at, where we processed more than $700 billion last year. It won't be long before we're crossing the $1 trillion mark. And you cannot have a centralized team that manages issues on your site if you're that large. And our aspiration is to grow to 1 billion daily active users. And you certainly can't grow to that size without having the federation, without having a very strong DevOps model, and without having active participants both on the SRE side, the operation side, as well as the product development side.
That's great to hear, Wes. This notion of DevOps and service ownership, they often get intertwined. We're starting to get talked about a lot together, and sometimes even in isolation. But I'd love to get your take on why is some of this stuff so hard?
Yeah.
Right?
It is.
We've all read the papers and the books and the websites, and we hear the story. Why is this hard, Wes?
It's hard for a couple different reasons. One is it's technically hard. If you have a monolithic application or a couple monolithic applications, ownership is hard because everybody owns it, so nobody owns it. Mm-hmm. If you have thousands of microservices, then ownership is hard because there's thousands or hundreds of different owners. And so how do you track all of that, right? We actually built, in our SRE team, we actually built an ownership platform. And that ownership platform actually tracks the owners of all of our components, our products, our packages. It tracks all of the DLs, like for all the teams that represent those packages and those products. We even have our PagerDuty information in there as well. For all of our components. And so we realized early on that ownership was a very challenging problem to solve. And it initiated from, in the early days of SRE, when we started, we had a developer channel, a developer DL where people would just send, hey, who owns this? Hey, who owns this? And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, we should actually have a platform now, like they can go and see. So we literally have a platform now that there's APIs to it and everything. You can get owners and we certify them on a quarterly basis. So if someone leaves the company, we actually, that doesn't happen on a quarterly, that happens right now. So if somebody leaves the company, if they own something, then we propagate that up to their manager and say, hey, who owns this now? So, we have good fidelity in that data. And so, you've got to solve that, who does actually own this. And that's part one. And then part two goes back to the cultural part of, you gotta have people who want to own the full experience of our customers. Even if they're developing on one or two components of that entire experience, you've got to have them like all in on that ownership of the customer experience. And that's where the cultural piece comes in. They got to have that accountability. They got to have that bias to action when something is going wrong. And so, when you start to get those pieces in place, really great things can occur because what you'll find is the hygiene of your code gets much better. The quality gets much better because no one wants a call at 2 in the morning. I mean, we love you guys, but we,
Good.
not
We'll
no
find
one
you.
wants
Don't worry. PagerDuty will find you, Wes. We'll
That's
find
right.
you.
And we know you will.
Yeah.
And so people don't want that call at 2 or 3 in the morning. And we also just want to be developing great products for our customers. That's what makes our business run. That's what helps us accomplish our purpose and mission as a business. And so I think when you get those two key pieces in place, you haven't solved it all, but you've solved a lot of it.
Very good. Last question before we wrap, and I'm looking for just a one-word answer here. Either it scares you or you welcome it, but automation and applying machine learning to all this wonderfulness you've been talking about. Does it scare you or do you welcome it?
Oh, I welcome it. In fact, it's imperative. Again, at the scale that we want to get to, I know you asked for one word, I'll say about 35, but at the scale that we want to get to, we cannot get there without without automation, without developing an autonomous fleet. And the AI and machine learning aspect is critically important because you're not going to be able to make human decisions on that data that we have in the past. The scale is so large that we need to have that machine learning in place to make good decisions, whether it's our capacity, whether it's when things are about to go wrong on the site and we can prevent them, failed customer interactions, things like that. We have to build the models that will actually detect those things and auto-remediate those things, auto-heal those things so that we can truly have a touchless autonomous fleet. To me, it's table stakes now. I mean, it was, 5 years ago, it was like, wow, let's go explore and see what we can do in that space. And it's becoming more and more of an imperative in order to run our business at the scale we're running at.
Very good. Well, Wes, thank you very much for the time. Always good seeing you.
Good seeing you, Tim.
Okay.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.